Welcome back to the Fried Egg Golf Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Johnson, and today I'm excited. We're going to do a little more Ryder Cup debrief. This is mostly about just golf courses, match play, setup, that type of stuff. I'm talking with Joseph LaMagna and Garrett Morrison of Fried Egg Golf. And then in the back half, I am joined by U.S. Mid-Am champ Brandon Holtz from Bloomington, Illinois, who was nice enough to join right after winning the Mid-Am a couple weeks ago. So we had a lively discussion about his path, which is a pretty incredible one, playing college basketball and now playing Mid-Am golf and winning the U.S. Mid-Am. So we talk about that. Also talk a little reinstated AMs, a hot topic in the amateur golf world. And so this was a really fun podcast. I hope you guys enjoy it. And before we get to the podcast, let's talk about our friends over at Club Champion. I'll tell you what, if you want to try and compete at a US Mid-Am, you need to have your clubs dialed in. I played one Mid-Am, and my clubs were made by Club Champion at that point. That was pre-Fried Egg. That was pre this partnership. I've used them basically my entire life, my entire golf life, to build my clubs. And what I love about them is I trust them. They have the most highly trained fitters in the world. They have an in-house university now that trains every fitter. They have stores all over the country, so it's really easy to find them. They are career fitters who fit all day, every day, and they have no distractions by accessories or lessons or other things that they do. Every store has 65 brands, which equates to roughly 70,000 different head and shaft combinations. This is for everybody. It's not just for really high-level players. Getting your equipment fit arguably would help, from a stroke basis, more, average players than high-level players. So if you're interested in getting a fitting, get a free driver fitting or iron fitting with a club purchase using the code FRIEDEGG at clubchampion.com/friedegg. That's a free driver or iron fitting with a club purchase using code FRIEDEGG at clubchampion.com/friedegg. All right, thanks. Let's get to Garrett and Joseph. All right. The Ryder Cup discourse has continued. I wanted to do one more thing. I thought one aspect of the Ryder Cup, which I think I could make some giant takeaways from. I think it was actually very revealing of a few things, was the setup. So to talk about the venue setup and future venues we might like to see, we're going to bring in Joseph LaMagna from Fried Egg Golf, who was on the ground, and of course our architecture expert, Garrett Morrison, who was watching from home. So, guys, welcome on. How are you?
How are you, Joseph?
I'm great. It's an interesting week. Good to be on site as for part of it. It's my second Ryder Cup, one as a fan, now one as a member of media. So it was an illuminating experience. What was it like for you, Garrett?
It was not nearly as strenuous as it was for you guys. I got to just watch from home and fire off some tweets. So good week for me overall.
Well, let's get into it. I think I'd love to chat with you guys a little bit, and obviously you both bring a little bit different perspective, but setup was a big chatter. Obviously Keegan Bradley made the decision to cut the rough, make it very short rough, very unpenalizing off the fairway. And that combined with a Thursday rain really created a soft setup. And something I guess I've kind of crystallized on golf with high-level professionals, men particularly. Bethpage Black's probably biggest weakness as a golf course is its greens. They are very boring, very dull, flat. They sometimes rely on tilt, but nothing very extreme. They kind of are situated on a lot of times ridges, but then very flat, and their surrounds are very benign in the sense of, like, if you miss the green, it's a pretty simple chip shot. with how soft they were, I have kind of crystallized around the setup that boring, mundane, featureless greens render really bad tests of golf for professional golfers. And I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are.
Well, I agree with you, Andy. I mean, I think most of where intrigue comes from in professional golf is when the ball is on the ground. And there's no better example of that than around the greens. So, especially when it rained, especially when they chopped the rough down, getting up and down was very easy. I think that did backfire on the United States. I don't know how much you want to get into the captaining decisions there, but not a huge effect. I feel like people are getting a little bit carried away with some of the course setup stuff and how that disadvantaged the United States. I think we need to keep that in perspective, but I completely agree with you that you said it very well at Valhalla, that a golf course like that is asking a question that was answered a decade ago of how high and straight can you hit the ball. Off the tee, if there's not a lot of intrigue off of the tee like there isn't at Bethpage, then there better be some defense in the greens. Otherwise, it's just robotic golf. So I'm somewhat sympathetic to the idea that Ryder Cup venues probably matter a little bit less, the test that is presented, than major championships, for example, because people aren't as focused on the score and the shots that people are hitting. But I still think Bethpage was quite underwhelming from a shot value standpoint.
A real quick follow-up. How would you have set it up if you were Keegan Bradley?
Well, on paper, those teams were very balanced. So I think Keegan's talking about how he regrets it and how he wished he had gone with his intuition. I don't think people should kill him too much for the course setup, but I do think a more accuracy geared course and a more demanding course from tee to green would have been beneficial for the United States. A little bit more of a talented team on paper, though it was close. But I think the biggest thing is he was muting the strength of his best player, Scotty Scheffler, who I would cater a golf course towards. He's going to play 4 or 5 matches. Rory's going to play 4 or 5 matches, and Scotty hits the ball appreciably shorter and straighter than Rory does. So I think it makes a lot of sense to build this and gear it a little bit more towards accuracy. At the same time, Cameron Young went out and played unbelievable golf, predominantly from the rough, and Bryson DeChambeau is not the most accurate driver of the golf ball. So I think it should be kept in check a little bit. There are accurate drivers of the golf ball on Europe too. It wouldn't have fundamentally changed the outcome of the competition, but if I were Keegan, yes, I would have set it up to be more of an accuracy test.
I think also when you combine Scotty and then some other auto qualifiers, Russell Henley, JJ Spawn, another one that would jump to mind that was on the team was Colin Morikawa.
Right.
Those are all accuracy / precision driven players. And I think that's where the setup kind of let them down, was that, especially in Henley and Spawn's case, those are 2 of your best players coming into the event. You could even throw maybe Harris English into that bucket, but he can play kind of anywhere. I'd say he's a kind of all-around player.
Tommy
Garrett,
Fleetwood's a very accurate driver of the golf ball too, though. Just to be clear, there was accuracy on the European side as well.
Garrett, I'd like to hear from you, kind of watching on TV, and understanding the architecture of Bethpage. What did you think? If it had been firm, would we have enjoyed the short rough setup?
If it had been firm, it would have been very different, I think. And that was, to me, the biggest factor. The rough got all the attention, and that was a big difference. It changed the off the tee characteristics of the golf course quite a bit. When we see PGA championships at Bethpage Black, basically those tournaments are all about the rough. And that factor wasn't there this time, and that was notable. But I think from an entertainment perspective, the main limiting factor for this Ryder Cup was the softness of the greens and the way that the ball just wasn't going anywhere, either landing in the fairway or landing on the green. I'm not sure they could have done much about the fairways. Listen, this is an old golf course. They probably don't have the single most up-to-date, state-of-the-art drainage and irrigation system at this course, though they do a really good job. The greens, though, oh my gosh. I mean, they were just, it was a non-factor. It was truly a non-factor in approach play wherever players were playing from. It didn't matter if they were in whatever rough was there or in the fairway. The ball was landing on the green and doing pretty much the same thing every single time. And it really took the air out of the golf component of the telecast for me. And that was a real shame. And it's something that I wonder if is even on the PGA of America's or Team USA's mind, or on the mind of the European Tour or Team Europe when the Ryder Cup is over there. Do they think about setting up golf courses for an entertainment value? I don't think they really do. I think they think about setting it up to advantage their team. Now, I'm not sure exactly what Team USA was thinking in this case, how they were, what their working theory of how this setup would advantage their team was, but certainly it didn't have any entertainment value about it. And I think that should be something. Why not make the product as entertaining as possible and try to marry that with some kind of benefit to your team? I would hope that some kind of service to the fans would be a consideration here, but it certainly didn't seem to be the case this time.
Yeah, I'm shocked, honestly, and I think Keegan Bradley was too. It didn't rain after Thursday, and I was shocked.
Just didn't dry out. What were they doing? Were they putting water on the course?
They had to have been to a certain extent, because those greens just never dried out. I couldn't believe how soft they were. It became a situation where it was beneficial to be in the rough versus the fairway because of spin control.
Because of spin, yeah, because the ball was sucking back so much on the approaches from the fairway. Absolutely.
It was I've been thinking about, and kind of the thesis I brought up over at the top. I don't think Bethpage's greatest asset is its topography, and it's got some mundane pieces of the property, but it also has some stunning landforms where you're playing up and around, and
I think that variety is good. Yeah, I like that about the property.
And where this, I think the setup was I kind of liked the short rough from the sense of like what it did, but then with the greens just having nothing, where there was no contours that reinforced good or bad, where you have this beautiful land, but then the greens don't reinforce any semblance of strategy on it. And I think if they had a set of greens, and I know that you can't just wave your wand and put one of the best sets of greens in the world there, but if they had a set of greens, let's just use Augusta National, set that everybody knows on that property, with the way it was set up, it would have been enthralling. And that's, I guess, my biggest takeaway. And I started to think through major championships and where they fall into buckets for me of intrigue. And it's why Bethpage comes in so low. It's why Valhalla comes in so low. You have to have great greens to test the modern player. And this week, you just could see these guys hit it. And it was amazing to watch them make these 20-footers after 20-footer and seemingly make 15-footers like a 8-footer normally. But then you start to zoom out and you start to think about it. It's like, well, there's not a lot going on with the greens. So you could hit it to 15 feet and be okay and not have a difficult putt. That's something I think that amplified, I do think that it was harder if you were out of position than if you were in position. You saw people struggle when they were out of position to hit it close. But I just don't think the value of hitting it close was as high as it normally is. because of the greens. Would you agree with that, Joseph?
Yeah, I think especially to back pins, you saw golfers really struggling to take spin off with some of their wedges. Like the 18th hole is an example where hitting that way uphill hard with a wedge and taking spin off to a back pin from the fairway was very difficult and tripping a lot of those golfers off. So, yeah, you saw it in the data. I know Data Golf put some stuff out there about how there was virtually no penalty. I don't know what the final number ended up being, but it should be somewhere around like between 1/10 of a shot and 2/10 of a shot, which is a very small penalty. If you didn't have some kind of tree in your way, there was almost no penalty to being in the rough. And not to derail the conversation at all, but I think one part of all of this that is probably missing from the conversation a little bit, and to Garrett's point about entertainment value should be part of how you set the golf course up. They just hosted a huge event at Bethpage Black, whose identity is being a difficult golf course. And it was as easy as it could possibly be presented. Like, I think that would be my question to both of you. Did Bethpage lose some of its identity this past weekend? Because I think I could make a pretty serious argument that it did. And there were fans all throughout the property saying something to that effect, that I've never seen it play this easy. It's way harder for me. Didn't we lose something this past weekend by setting up the golf course that way?
PJ said it before the tournament. He was on top of this. He's familiar with this course.
In the newsletter.
A Long Island guy. He wrote a good piece for the newsletter about how this was sort of a disgraceful setup for Bethpage Black. I think it absolutely hurt Bethpage Black's reputation this week that it was set up in this way, and it was so obviously easy. And it's kind of funny that that came through so clearly in a match play event, because normally we would have to use the scoreboard for reference, the leaderboard for reference as to how easy a course is playing. But this week it was just so obvious that it was a pillow out there, and it was target practice for these guys. And I don't know. I think what I take away from it is that Bethpage Black is no longer big enough to challenge these players. For a long time, for decades, part of the challenge of Bethpage Black was its scale, its length, the size of its topography. Even back in 2002, this was a challenging course,
so hard
in terms of its size for the US Open field. It's not that way anymore. The course is really reliant on setup to uphold its reputation as an extremely difficult golf course for pros. So when you bring the pros to this course, in order to make the course seem difficult, you have to narrow the fairways, you have to grow up the rough, you have to make the greens firm. You have to do these things because the scale of the pros game now dwarfs the scale of Bethpage Black. And that wasn't the case until 15 to 20 years ago.
I mean, you had guys playing alternate shot, which is a challenging format of golf, and being 7-8 under par. You know, people going out in 30 on the front nine.
Was it Fleetwood and
Rory, I think,
who went out in 30?
I mean, they made a mockery of, and I would say, like, if I had to point to one hole, and I know it's different with thicker rough, but to me, what was alarming is just the clubs that people were hitting into 15, which is widely regarded as one of the hardest holes in the world. And you see players, even with soft conditions, getting short irons in their hands. And that hole, if you go back to 2002, people were hitting long irons into it. And it's just a drastically different proposition and challenge. You know, that whole closing stretch, you know, when you zoom out to 15, 16, 17, 18, was considered one of the hardest closing stretches in golf. And I know that 17 didn't play all the way back, but if you look at that stretch, 18, people could just bypass the bunkers. 17 was a scoring opportunity. The same with 16. You know, 16 was just a driver and a wedge. And 15, we saw way more low numbers than big numbers. And I think from that sense, what you're saying about the identity of Bethpage Black is absolutely true. The and I think the setup is obviously one thing. I think like what's interesting is when you go forward, people always say match play, oh, it doesn't matter. The venue doesn't matter. But we saw this year that the venue did matter in terms of how it was set up, and how it recovered from a rain event, a relatively small rain event, and how it had a lasting impact. Without a doubt, those greens being so soft created a huge, an advantage to be in the rough. If the greens weren't soft, I think that advantage would have gone away. You would have seen more reward from the fairways. So I'm interested as we move forward. Is there here's the lineup of upcoming Ryder Cup venues. We've got Adair Manor next in 27. Hazeltine National, who has hired Davis Love's architecture group, but from what I've gathered, there cannot be work done on the golf course before the Ryder Cup because of the contract with the PGA had the course as is written into the language. So that will not be renovated until after.
It's so weird. I mean, when they scheduled that Ryder Cup at Hazeltine and the club soon after hired Love Golf Design as its consulting firm, I thought, okay, they're going to create a new Ryder Cup course at Hazeltine, and they've hired a pretty talented architecture firm to do the work. I was excited about that. But then it comes out that they're why wouldn't they? I mean, it's so confusing. I don't get it.
Yeah, they're hosting the KPMG Women's next year. And so if you look at it 26 to 29, plenty of time to turn around a golf course.
Yeah, you could do it in 2 years. You could do the thing that you need to do at Hazeltine in 2 years.
But we will get the Hazeltine you saw in 2016, the Hazeltine you'll see next year at the KPMG Women's, the Hazeltine you saw at the USAM. Then we go to Spain. We go to Costa Brava. I don't know much about that golf course.
Camarol. It's called, or I might be pronouncing that wrong. Camiral. It's in Catalonia. It's kind of an hour outside of Barcelona. I did a little bit of research on this course. There's some interesting stuff about it. I do not think it's a good golf course, though.
Sounds like one that might be a nice one to go with the wife, though, too.
Oh yeah, great wine region. Yeah. Just like that would be an amazing trip.
Sounds like one to go to the place, not for the golf, but
for like the food, for the restaurants and the wine. Yeah, and then go to Barcelona.
And then 2033 Olympic Club, which if I'm an Olympic Club member after what I just saw at Bethpage, I'm on full alert.
That's right.
Like I'm not allowing what just happened to happen at my course.
You talking setup or are you talking
setup?
Oh yeah, because the Olympic Club members are so proud of the difficulty of the lake course. So if they get Bethpage Blacked, they're not going to be happy about that.
And then Congressional in 2037, which is a very long time away. It's 11 years. None of the players. I mean, it'd be amazing if any of the players are still playing at that point, but I find that doubtful. 12 years. Who would be the best contender to be still playing, Joseph?
Ludwig?
He'd be 38.
Maybe
39?
The Højgaards.
I think there's a better chance Ludwig's playing than the Højgaards, respectfully.
So with that, what stands out to you about the future venues, and is there one that you're keen to see?
Joseph, you want me to jump in here?
Sure.
The thing that I think is interesting about these venues is the different tactics that the European Tour and the PGA of America have taken in selecting venues. It looks to me like the PGA of America is basically establishing a rota, which I would call a kind of USGB rota, right? The USGA has its rota with Oakmont and Shinnecock Hills and really the elite golf courses of the United States, and the PGA of America has sort of gathered up all the leftovers. And there are some really good golf courses, but listen, I mean, Baltusrol is not Shinnecock Hills. I really like Baltusrol. I think the renovation work there is great, but I think no one's going to argue that it's anything like the level of golf course or level of championship venue that Oakmont or Marion or even Pinehurst would be. And so the USGA has really commanded the greatest, most prestigious championship venues in America for its championships. And the PGA of America has been left basically taking the courses that have been passed over by the USGA. And so the PGA Rota is kind of Aronimink, the Olympic Club, Baltusrol, Congressional, Kiowa, Southern Hills, Oak Hill. Well, there are some really good golf courses there, but it's not the US Open.
And for the Ryder Cup, what happens is that list gets even smaller because a lot of those places you just listed are not big enough to host a modern day Ryder Cup, which is the root of the issue of venues with this tournament.
I don't think you can take it to Southern Hills, right?
No. Be a delightful time of year for it there.
It's a really good golf course, but it's not big enough. You kind of need a 36-hole facility.
Kiowa is too small for a Ryder Cup. Which, Joseph, would you be in favor of a smaller on-site footprint and a greater emphasis on the overarching product?
Yeah, but doesn't that mean that they have to sell way more commercials if they're significantly reducing the on-site footprint, in which case then the television product might suffer? But yeah, like I think watching the Walker Cup at Cypress Point was illuminating that with a really when the focus is actually on the golf and the visuals, it was an incredible viewing experience. It probably wasn't the most commercially successful, but I guess that's the trade-off that the PGA of America isn't willing to make. But yes, Andy, I would be in favor from so many different standpoints of reducing the on-site footprint. I just don't think that's ever going to happen. And we've talked about it so many times on this pod of why there's a void in the market potentially for new venues. And I think if they were forward thinking, they would build one or two awesome venues with some of this revenue so that you could have a decent on-site footprint and not put, PJ called out, like they're putting grandstands in places on the golf course at Bethpage that normally shots could end up. So I think it is compromising the golf courses.
What's interesting is they're so booked out with both championships and the USGA likewise. And they've kind of booked everything under a preconceived or a conceived model of sorts of how the business works. And I think like what's fascinating right now with everything going on with sports is that, cable subscriptions are only continuing to dwindle. And the way we consider a broadcast in 10 years is likely going to be very, very, very different than what we see today. It could be a situation where you're looking at a streaming platform that comes in and scoops up these things. And how the streaming platform is probably looking at it as mostly subscription based, right? Which would completely change kind of the objectives and or goals of said broadcast on what we're trying to achieve with this. Now, you see Peacock that still has ads, and Netflix has introduced some ads, but like that primary reason for getting these events is for subscriptions, which completely changes kind of the paradigm of, I think, how we would look at one of these broadcasts. So what's a little, I guess like what's kind of something to watch is they're 12 years out with some of these things. or 20 years out. And they don't really know what the economics of their TV product is going to be at that point.
Are you throwing that out there from the standpoint of which venues they should be scheduling?
Yeah.
How would that change what venues they schedule? Do you think they could go smaller? Basically,
I think that would be my big. And that, you heard Seth Waugh describe the, booking of venues way out as irresponsible. And maybe this is one of the reasons is like, it's really hard to project what a business is going to look like in 5 years, let alone 20. And here we are locked up with venues for the foreseeable future, but we don't necessarily have certainty of what the business is going to look like. Well, what could VR introduce? Could VR introduce something that dramatically changes, us wanting to go on site for an experience anyways?
Yeah, love the idea of you guys gathering in a B-Dratty house in 2037 and putting on your VR headsets to.
These are all things that need to be like. My question is like, when we strip away a lot of it, and I think the USGA they are booked out, but they have like the best venues booked out.
Yes.
Now, if I was on the other side, I would be thinking like, hey, let's see where this technology thing goes, because we might have the ability to do something small, or like a small on-site footprint, but then deliver a really premium VR product or something along those lines if technology gets to where you might think it could in 10 years.
Would you go to Cypress Point?
Yeah.
Sorry, Garrett.
I don't think the PGA is getting into Cypress Point,
unfortunately.
I think that's a USGA only site.
I don't think the club was looking at the Ryder Cup, this last Ryder Cup, and thinking, oh, we definitely want that to happen at our club. I think that does open up some interesting possibilities. I think it's notable that the Masters has not gone all in on making its event the biggest event, right? They've intentionally kept it at a manageable size, and they've expanded their digital footprint massively over the past 10 years or so. And so that's how the Masters is moving, and it'll be interesting to see if other major championships move in that direction as well.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Like of these venues, I would say that like Congressional is the one that I'm most interested in.
I agree with that. Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's 12 years away. So,
well, I mean, listen, there's only a U.S. Ryder Cup every 4 years, and that's part of the unique dynamic here. We haven't really talked about the European side of this yet. Obviously, the PGA of America is wanting to go to prestigious, traditional venues with its championships. Congressional is that. The Olympic Club is that. And the PGA Championship is starting to go to classic venues as well. It's not going to PGA National anymore, right? And so that has been the direction that the PGA of America has moved in. The European Tour with the Ryder Cup, I mean, they're basically going to modern courses that they've been able in some way or another to purpose build for the Ryder Cup. Their in-house design firm, European Golf Design, made major changes at Marco Simone before the 2023 Ryder Cup, major changes at Le Golf Nacional before 2018. They're probably going to make some big changes at Camarol, or whatever this place is called, in Spain. And indeed, the Camarol, the whole development was a European Tour idea that had its roots back in the late 80s. It was the European chairman and co-chairman who designed the course along with the European Tour's consulting architect. So this has been a European Tour spot that just for some reason or another, they haven't utilized much for championships, but it looks like they're reinvesting in that. Adair Manor is sort of the outlier here, but I guess just the fact that JP McManus is the owner of it is the explanation that the Ryder Cup is there. Otherwise, it seems like the European Tour strategy is we are going to basically build our own Ryder Cup venues to an extent, or we're going to take existing facilities and retrofit them for this purpose. And I like that idea. I don't like the execution. I don't think the architecture is good. And I think that's a big miss. But it would be interesting if the PGA of America or whoever is running the Ryder Cup in a few years, who knows, maybe the PGA Tour is going to have more influence in it eventually. It would be interesting if the American Ryder Cup were taken to some venues that were in some way or another purpose built for the Ryder Cup. I would love to see some, talented architect try to build a stadium course in this day and age. That hasn't been done for a while. And I think some really interesting things could be created with that brief. Build me a stadium course. Be like Dean Beeman in the late 1970s, just plucking Pete Dye out of semi-obscurity because Beeman thought that Dye was an interesting architect and saying, hey, just take this ball and run with it. Build me a stadium course for a great championship. And somehow we've lost that vision. Obviously, it's very expensive to build these courses. You don't know the business side of it is tough.
I would say the organization running the American side just wants to take all the money and put it back in its pockets.
That's right. So, and that's the issue, is that they do not have the vision for this kind of thing. But the possibilities are tantalizing if they did.
Doesn't. Well, wait, that's
not what he's thinking about right now.
Garrett, I couldn't agree more with you, and I think that should be a huge focus of professional golf over the next 10 to 15 years. But isn't that what PGA Frisco is supposed to represent?
Yeah. And I was going to get to that. It seems like they fumbled that opportunity. I don't know what happened with Gil Hanse's course at PGA Frisco. It seems like a good golf course. It seems like maybe he was told just to go out and build a good golf course. And there are some interesting strategic concepts, and it's the turf is firm and fast. I think I would enjoy playing PGA Frisco, sort of. But why didn't they ask him to build a stadium golf course? Why wasn't that course optimized for galleries? Why does it seem to be a bad course to host championships at? Why do you have to change the routing?
Little scuttlebutt.
Okay.
So there was, when they were building that golf course, it was during COVID.
Yeah.
And the PGA, there was apparently multiple attempts to get the PGA down to consult on where they would want grandstands, and nobody showed up.
What?
So everybody was pointing the finger at whether it was Gil or Omni about the setup, issues with grandstands and how they had to rejigger the routing for flow. But they were building this in partnership with the PGA, and nobody on the PGA side of the coin came down to help advise them or lend assistance in how that could be laid out.
So there was no vision. That's and the vision is what made TPC Sawgrass what it was, because Dean Beeman had an idea for a stadium golf course, and he theorized it to the point where he was saying, I want gathering points. I want holes converging so that people can watch action on multiple holes at one time. He was saying, I want high points around the holes so that spectators are looking down at players. He had an idea of what this course would be, and that's part of what made it really remarkable. And so it sounds like there was no similar impetus behind the PGA, at least the Gil Hanse course at PGA Frisco. And really, they shouldn't have been designing the course and then saying, where do we put the grandstands, or how do we get spectators around it? It should have been baked into the concept from the beginning.
Yeah, that's what you would think you would do. I will say one thing, and I'm curious, Joseph, one of the advantages, Garrett, you're not a fan of the architecture that this firm, the European design firm is
I think creating. It's not bad. I think the guys, I've talked to the architects there, and they're smart, but it's not.
I will say one of the things about the golf courses that they're choosing is they are unique and different. They are, you could call them quirky. Anybody that's watched any bit of golf at Le Golf National knows this. And I think one of the other aspects of these builds that they're doing is they are different golf courses than American PGA Tour style golf courses. And then it almost lends itself right into the Europeans' hands in the sense that they have really created a way to set up their team and build their team with advantages in how they relate to the golf course, particularly on their home soil. Would you agree with that, Joseph?
I agree with it. I think it underscores that there probably should be a neutral party setting up the golf course. And Eduardo Molinari, who's the brainchild of a lot of what happens on the European side, said on our podcast a year ago that he would be in favor of that he thinks that a neutral setup would probably be beneficial because of the advantages we've seen on each side. So yeah, Andy, you could convince me that if you're going to build a golf course from scratch, you'd make it as quirky, strategic, funky as possible, and then get your side really dialed on the course management and just turn it all the way up, like have blind shots that your team is prepared for. Maybe you'd mow the rough in really bizarre ways, knowing that the left side is fine here, the right. You could do crazy stuff to the golf course, but I do think that we've come too far on letting the home team set things up, and it should kind of go to a more neutral setup.
In a way, they did this at Le Golf National. If you look at Le Golf National and you replay that Ryder Cup, Europe had so many more accurate players on a golf course that demanded accuracy. And the United States rolled in with a completely out of form and wild Phil Mickelson, Bryson DeChambeau, Bubba Watson, Tiger, who was like... Who knows what was going on that week?
Sleepwalking through that Ryder Cup.
And like you think about it, and it was like this perfect storm for a blowout because it was one team fit the golf course extraordinarily well and all had experience on it. The other team, it was wildly different than anything you see in America. The other team rolls in after the Tour Championship, blind, and they play this golf course that doesn't fit any of their games,
Well, the funny thing is that these courses that the European Tour has a lot of control over, the Le Golf National, Camerol, what was the other one? Marco Simone. They are kind of like knockoff versions of TPCs.
Yes.
Right? But they are peculiar golf courses. They're a little bit weird, and so they might require some degree of familiarity. Marco Simone has a lot of quirk to it, maybe not really good quirk, but it helps to have seen the course before. And this is all sort of part and parcel of Team Europe's approach, where they actually have control of these venues from the ground up, from the design side. They are involved with the details of these golf courses, whereas the PGA of America is basically outsourcing all of that. Kind of like they've outsourced their data operation to Scouts Consulting instead of integrating it into the team. They have gone to the PGA of America has gone to courses that operate their own golf courses and have their own ideas about what their golf courses should be in a good way. Right? I'm glad that the Olympic Club has control over what it's doing with its architecture and that the PGA of America doesn't have say in that. But there's a reason that Team Europe is approaching venue selection in the way it does. It's going to golf courses where it's really involved already.
I think one thing, Garrett, you going through that explanation, talking about some of those European Tour courses, that's illuminating for me, not just being at Le Golf National, but also walking Bethpage. Elevation change is essential to a Ryder Cup venue. From the perspective of spectating, it is enormous. And I mean, from the perspective of Europe, like at Le Golf National, it also created a significant penalty for being offline because you weren't just in thick rough. You were standing, with the ball way above or below your feet with those moguls on each side of the golf course, which I know was an emphasis of Europe. I don't know that how much driving accuracy is tested is something that we should be thinking about for future venue selection, especially since these teams are a little bit more homogenized now. But I do think from the standpoint of venue selection, elevation change should be a massive consideration in the way that it informs viewers and spectating different vantage points throughout the golf course, where you can set up hospitality. And not to go right back and beat a dead horse, but I mean, PJ Frisco is like the flattest piece of property that you're going to find. And I do think that should be a much bigger consideration than clearly the PGA is prioritizing.
Not yet on the list of future venues.
Not yet.
But it's coming. I think it's probably coming.
All right. I'm going to make you guys each the czar. The golf czar. The greatest figurative role there is in the world. You can wave your wand and change where the next Ryder Cups are contested. The next 2 Ryder Cups are contested. I'm assuming that we're not sticking with Hazeltine in its current form. And I think Adair Manuel will be a wonderful, wonderful week. I'm sure all the players will be quite happy with their accommodations. But you're getting kind of like an inland parkland, Fazio golf course, which I hear is great, wonderful place to be. But like probably not the most, fascinating, enthralling strategic golf course. If you can wave your wand, the next 2, so you get a US and a broad venue. What 2 are you picking? No concerns for anything.
No concerns for anything. Oh, I kind of factored concerns in.
Oh, you could, a little bit, but keep your concerns in. But you get any 2. What are you doing?
So for a European venue, would love to see Walton Heath. I think that would be cool. It probably wouldn't be able to accommodate a full scale Ryder Cup, but it is a 36-hole facility. So at least it does have that going for it. It's hosted sizable championships before. It doesn't have much elevation change, actually, to Joseph's previous point. But what it does have...
It hosted the 81 Ryder Cup also.
Yeah, exactly. It's got a little bit of tradition. Do you know what the host of the very first Ryder Cup was back in 1927?
Oh, Glen Eagles.
Worcester Country Club.
Worcester. All right.
Which has recently undergone what I've heard is a very, very good renovation by Gil Hance. I've heard that's a terrific golf course, but don't think that that's in the cards.
Some people will look that up and think it's Worcester, but it's Worcester.
It's Worcester. Yes. Yeah. It does look like Worcester, but that is not how you pronounce it. Walton Heath, I'd love to see. I think that's such a cool golf course, and it does interesting things to modern pros games. It would be tough to hold any kind of stroke play major championship there, but for a Ryder Cup, it would be fascinating. And it's so bouncy, that course is a trampoline. And so I would have a lot of fun with that. For an American Ryder Cup, I mean, a few different options. Chambers Bay is sort of the cliched one. Of course, I would love to see it at Chambers Bay. They're not going to go there. It's just too hard to get in and out of the course. And the spectator experience seems to be occasionally treacherous. But for a Ryder Cup, people more stay in place, I guess. So it might be well suited to that. Crooked Stick is another one that I'd love to see. And Joseph has just perked up at that because this is close to his heart. But those are 2 names that come to mind for me, Ryder Cup venues that I think would actually be interesting to watch.
All right, Joseph, what are yours?
Yeah, I think on Crooked Stick, one issue they've had is the driving range was never big enough to have a full field. So, there you go. You only have 24 golfers. They think they still need to extend it a little bit or put up a higher net, but hey, at least you have that problem solved.
I think they can. I think they can warm up at a screen.
By the time, who knows?
Yeah.
We'll all TrackMan ranges,
right?
I think the legit answer here is that they need to build something new because this exercise is always so difficult to find something that's practical and would be exciting. You guys are going to hate this one, but if we're doing one that's 4 years from now, And while Jack Nicklaus is still alive, you could do worse than Muirfield Village. And I don't like picking a course that's a PGA Tour course.
You love that course so much.
I love
Nobody
that
loves
course.
that golf course. It's TPC San Antonio, Muirfield Village. I mean, you just have those posters on your wall and you go to sleep staring at them.
Honestly, I think next year we have to send Joseph to do his Muirfield Village love letter.
Yeah, he'll write a poignant newsletter piece after it.
Well, what other golf courses are we even talking about? Like, to go through something that can actually host an event and be a good test of golf and potentially have the fan infrastructure. Like, the list is so small, but I think it would be cool while Jack Nicklaus is still alive to have an event there, and it would be a golf course that legitimately has shot value. So I'll throw that out there. In terms of one in Europe, I'm scratching my head trying to think of anything that would work. This is another USGA venue, so I don't think they would ever go there. But if you want to max out the quirkiness, what about La Hinch?
That would be fun.
It'd be fun. Wouldn't probably get their box office number that they're looking for.
No. They want it to be within an hour of a major city, right?
Yeah,
that's kind of that looks to be the logic. You know, Barcelona is pretty close to Camerel. Adair Manor is the one it's like 2 hours from Dublin, but it's still, listen, I mean, no place in Ireland is I guess that far from any other place in the end. So they're looking to kind of be generally in urban areas.
Oh yeah, these are not realistic. I don't think that they're going to La Hinch anytime soon.
That's
but if you
why
wanted
you're
to see
the golf star.
Yeah, if you want to see a course where par doesn't matter and you've got funky stuff that's upsetting pros, throw some of those blind shots at them.
Yeah. Well, I'd really like to, I mean, a realistic place, a place that might actually get a Ryder Cup sometime in the near future because it's in the PGA of America Rota, is Baltusrol. I think that would be a very good Ryder Cup host. Would it be the most scintillating possible host? Would it be as fun as La Hinch? Absolutely not. But it's a good golf course where good renovation work has been done, cool greens, right? Actually interesting greens, and you could set that place up to be very entertaining. And it's a 36-hole facility, so you'd have the room. The driving range situation is a little bit touch and go, but I think they have a plan there. So
they could turn
there's a possibility.
Whole of the other course into the driving range.
Yeah, exactly. They can just have them tee off from wherever.
Andy, I know you said that this one it doesn't have the infrastructure. I think Kiowa would be a cool one to have a ride.
I've been told it's too small.
Yeah, you could never do a lot of the stuff that they want to do, but if you wanted to dial one back a little bit and make it hard to access, I think you could do a lot worse than Kiowa.
Yeah, I guess I'm surprised. Like they touched the $1,000 ticket thing. I mean, honestly, it's an awful spectator experience. It's horrendous. I actively advise people not to go to the Ryder Cup.
Oh, the Ryder Cup in general. Yeah.
Terrible.
Well, you don't see any golf shots, right? There's just not that many golf shots being played. And so
what if they just went like the secondary market crazy markup and reduce the tickets by, they already are outpricing people with their current setup. Why not just go extreme? Have super expensive tickets and way less fans.
This would be your fantasy, right, Andy?
Well, I'm not trying to be an elitist or anything.
Well, I know, but you like the idea of no fan golf tournaments, right?
I went to a Ryder Cup when I was 26 years old, and I was so mad at the amount of money I wasted. And at that time, it was way cheaper than it is now. You went to
Medina?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was so upset leaving. Me and my buddy we just talked the whole way home about how awful of a spectating experience it was. So at that point, you're delivering something that costs an insane amount of money that's bad. That's not a good business. So why not dial it back? Go ultra luxe. Save people from spending a substantial amount of their money on something that's not good, because that's the worst thing you can do, to be completely honest, as a business. But anyways, I got a couple venues. That's just a whole nother thought that could lead to 20 minutes of discussion. What about the old course?
I mean, are we waving a wand about logistical considerations?
They host an Open, which is like insanely big.
Every 5 years. I mean, I kind of avoided Rota venues in my own imaginings.
Is there a better match play course in the world?
Oh, of course not. And a lot of the problems that people have right now with the old course is the idea of par.
Yes.
Right. And the stroke play score. And so it'll be fun to be liberated from that for a week at the old course. I mean, if obviously like that would be fantastic. I'd love it. Has the Ryder Cup ever been at the old course?
I don't think it has.
I don't think it has.
Yeah, it's been at some other places. It's
just
been
amazing.
At Birkdale. It's been
it's been it consistently went to Rota courses before the 1980s when they just started going to the Belfry over and over and over again. Like you went from literally Walton Heath in I think 81, and then it was the Belfry in 83, and ever since then the European venues have just been, but yeah, I would love the Ryder Cup at the old course would be sensational.
And then American venue, brand new. Just opened for preview play on the day of this recording yesterday, Rodeo Dunes.
Rodeo Dunes.
It's an hour from Denver, 45 minutes from the airport. Tons of space for logistics in terms of grandstands, everything. And a golf course, like if you're hosting a tour event, you might worry about score to par. For a Ryder Cup, don't worry about score to par. They just bastardized one of the great championship courses in America with low scores. So why not go somewhere where you don't have to do anything? It's firm and fast, it's bouncy, and it's a great time of year to be in that location.
Do you think it would be done a disservice on TV, Rodeo Dunes?
Current TV.
You mean like,
but not when we get those VR headsets going.
Like they wouldn't know. Yeah. But I mean, just in general on TV, it's one of those courses that I think in person, I'm thinking of, if you held a Ryder Cup at Sand Hills or something like that, it's obviously such a gorgeous place. If you photograph it correctly, then it comes across really well. When you're in person, it just bowls you over. I don't know if Sand Hills would translate on TV.
I think it would. I'm like fairly convinced that it would do well. Like that golf course has a lot of big features. It's more of like I would say like Rodeo has like Irish Links features where you have those big dunes, very dramatic vistas and like, towering dunes that you play up. Like you get that elevation change in those spectating areas that Joseph was talking about. So those would be my two. I had Chambers Bay on my list, but you mentioned it. So Chambers Bay,
it's an obvious one.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's, the PGA head to the sand for not trying to do it because you'd get like the Ryder Cup. I know this would be awful for European viewers. Disclaimer for the European audience. I know how awful it would be for you. But for the American TV audience, like, could you imagine a Ryder Cup coming down on Sunday night? You're watching on the East Coast Ryder Cup at 9 p.m.
Be incredible.
And there aren't that many West Coast options really right now.
Be a lot more, at Chambers. It'd be a lot more interesting than Olympic.
Yeah.
Andy, I think what I love about Rodeo Dunes, I'm all in on that, and I think the story that would come out is the Europeans practicing at altitude before the Ryder Cup and the Americans not practicing at altitude one time. Europeans winning, and that it would be the whole, like, that's exactly what would happen. I'm so in on that.
Would the Europeans like get a hotel in Aspen and go on runs together as a team?
Yeah.
Do altitude training.
My favorite is this rumor that the US didn't practice enough at Bethpage, where it was literally a golf course you did not have to think around.
No.
And practice, like, the knives come out and people are looking to blame everything. But like the idea that somebody didn't practice enough at Bethpage is preposterous because there was literally no thinking to be done. It was
they
take
didn't
out the
study
driver
the greens
and hit it
Andy.
as hard as you can.
The reason the Europeans made all those putts is that they knew all the breaks and the nuances of the Bethpage Black greens.
So, anyways, this was a great chat. Thank you guys for coming on. Joseph's work you can read a lot in the newsletter as well as on these pods that he is a guest. Garrett's work you can find in our membership, Friday Golf Club. His writing on golf courses is featured there weekly, as well as his bi-weekly Designing Golf podcast that everybody should go check out. Thank you guys for coming on and talking about things that we would hope that to change that'll probably never change.
Thanks, Andy.
All right, before we get to Brandon, let's talk about our friends over at Golf Genius. If you've been to a Fried Egg event, you know that we partner with Golf Genius. They help us manage all of our Fried Egg events, these 100+ people gatherings, the tournaments. We also have smaller ones. They are a system that saves our staff hours of prep work and also helps deliver a great experience for players. Not only does that do that for us, but it does it with thousands of clubs across the world. They are in more than 60 countries and over 11,000 clubs, resorts, and public and golf courses across the world. So they also work with state golf associations and help them run their events. Golf Genius is the industry-leading platform for managing golf events and tournaments. And if you're interested in learning more about their software, if you're looking for, if you run events or if you're a part of a pro shop, go to golfgenius.com. All right. Big thanks to Golf Genius. Let's get back to Brandon Holtz and talk to the U.S. Mid-Am champ. All right, Brandon, congrats on the Mid-Am win. Pretty incredible to do it in your first USGA event. I got to ask, I think the part of your story that I'm most interested in is you played college basketball. You played at Illinois State.
Right.
Who's the best hooper that you played against at any level of basketball and, over the years?
Honestly, Sean Livingston out of Peoria, had a heck of a career, went in the NBA. I'm telling you, if that guy didn't completely tear up his knee, I think top 50 all time. He was a blast to watch. He was a blast to play with. Fortunately enough for us, we were, and you're an Illinois guy, so you remember some of these names, but Andre Iguodala, Sean Livingston, Richard McBride, Brian Randall, they would come down. Their AAU team would play our AAU team just about once a week over the summer. So we got to play with those guys quite a bit, and they were special. And Sean was just on a different level, as we all know, right? But definitely him. And then real quick at ISU, Osiris Eldridge, that guy, when he would jump, you could feel the force in the floor if you were next to him. And unfortunately for me, I had the privilege, or not so much the privilege, to guard him every day in practice. And talk about a humbling experience to get your butt kicked every day in practice. So it was cool. I played with a lot of good players and had a lot of fun.
I live in the Bay Area, and I was talking to somebody that's like a little younger than me, late 30s. I'm in the late 30s. Someone in their like 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about the Warriors, and Sean Livingston came up, and I vividly remember watching Sean Livingston when, how the state tournament was televised.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember watching him in the state tournament, and I was like, holy, like that. It was like just like mass destruction of high school teams.
Different animal. Oh yeah.
Different. And I said to this guy, I was like, before the knee injury or the leg injury, that guy was unbelievable. And it was it was actually at a rental car center. that I said this to somebody. It was, I remember the guy, because he was at the rental car center. But yeah, Sean Livingston. It's as a basketball player, there's this trend in youth sports about like specialization where like, it's like effectively like at age 10, these kids have to figure out what sports they played.
Right.
For you, what do you think about your basketball career has helped you as a golfer?
A lot of different ways. The competitiveness, the drive. I'd say like golf is hard. Like to practice every day golf, right? I mean, there's no defense, there's no plays, there's no like, I can't talk trash to a guy that's guarding me, right? There's just not it's just you and the golf ball and the green and the hole. And so playing basketball all those years, you learn and you just, I guess, develop a work ethic. And to transition it to golf, even a quick hour out on the golf course is better than no hour, right? So for me, having a job, having 2 kids, having a life outside of just the game of golf, running to that range for 30 minutes, hitting a few balls is super important. And that's all, stems into the work ethic and I guess just the structure of your day, being able to be accountable to yourself to go play when you have a little bit of time.
I've said this numerous times on the podcast, but it's funny. I think like the specialization is, I think golf, other sports help golf. And I always use this example as maybe the best summer I had in my amateur career post college was playing. I played basketball all winter. Played like probably 3-4 times a week at my gym in the city. And I didn't play, basically, I played no golf. I didn't really practice, but I came back and what I had gained was explosiveness, right? Like my legs were just twitchier, and that basketball, I'll never forget, I came back and I was hitting the ball 10, 15 yards further. And it was all because of just the quick twitch nature of basketball. And it's like, you think about some golf exercises, like box jumps are great for golf, and it's like, that's effectively basketball. It's something I find silly about kids. And it's like, you look at Scotty Scheffler, he played all different sports growing up. He played a lot of basketball. And it's like, there are sports, particularly basketball, I think, that relate really well to golf because of, as you said, with the ISU player, I forgot his name already, but the ground force. Yeah. The ground force is effectively how you generate power. From what I gather, you move the ball.
Yeah. It's actually, that you say that, it's funny, when I hit balls on the range, I can't stay in the same spot very long because obviously we all take divots. But you should see like my foot pattern. I mean, I am dug into that ground, and I'm a bigger guy as it is, but I'm dug into that ground. And you kind of look at it, if you're at like a sand-based range and you're like, oh shit, like I got to move. Like my foot is in the ground over here. So yeah, and then along with the same lines as all these different sports are using different kinds of muscles. That's why I feel like a lot of these kids are getting hurt because, they only play basketball, they only play football, they only play golf. And over time, you just wear those muscles out when, if you're playing all the sports all year round, you're using all, your whole body instead of just those select muscles for that sport,
Yeah, I completely agree, and it trains different things, and you don't know what's going to help you the most. Like something on the basketball court could click for your golf game, just the way you move or something you think about. It's golf's such a kind of mercurial game in the sense of like you have to be cerebral, and the way you think about stuff is it just like so important. With the week at Troon, I read some stuff that, obviously you're a long player. Desert golf is known of being very penal, but I read that you played quite aggressive throughout the week. What was kind of the mentality around the week and your strategy going into a desert golf course, and that, effectively you miss a fairway, you're kind of in a questionable spot.
The driver got me there, right? The driver is the strongest club in my bag. I hit it every chance I can, and don't even think about it. If you start thinking in golf, you start failing in golf, right? So turn the brain off, trust your shot, and go with it. As far as the desert's concerned, yeah. So Troon Country Club was, for me, I think, just perfectly set up, just because I'm not scared to hit the driver. And I'm not saying those guys weren't scared I'm not saying they were scared to hit the driver, but match in, match out, these guys are pulling off irons and hybrids and 3-woods, and I'm hitting driver. And I'm like, one of the guys out there said it perfectly. A lot of these guys are out here playing the golf course how it's supposed to be played. And I was just out there trying to make birdies. And, in match play, I'm not a rocket science by any means, but isn't that what you're supposed to do? Make as many birdies as you can.
I think that's, it's a great point, because stroke play rewards that, like, you're building like a foundation. If you think about, I think this is what Jeff Ogilvy said to me once about a stroke play tournament. It's like building a house. You lay the foundation in round one, and you're just trying not to screw up effectively. And you're trying to, like, build a sound house and not make many mistakes. And that's going to keep you on time. The house analogy kind of works well. But when you get into match play, it is so much about creating unique advantages on holes and applying pressure to your opponent. It's much more like other sports where you're squaring off. Like, I think it works really well with, like, a tennis analogy where, if you watch tennis and they go for big first serves, and obviously there's a repercussion if you miss it, then you're playing the second serve, and the returner has the advantage. With golf, if you can keep the driver in play, and somebody's hanging an iron, all of a sudden you've just put a ton of pressure on their, mid-iron player into the green.
Right. And my thought the whole week is, if I'm hitting second in the fairway, I choose to basically what I want to do each hole. Right. So to keep the basketball analogy of some sort in the golf, me going second was my defense. Right. And again, like, a little bit part of the gamemanship, they'd be back there 160 to 200 yards away, and I'm up there, 80 to 120 yards away. I'm not in their way, but I've made sure they saw me up there, right? And that's just the fun. Like, that's how I keep going. That's how I keep golf, active in my mind. How I keep going. It's how I play with all my buddies at home. What a lot of people don't understand and realize is the group of guys that I play with, 12 to 15 guys, they are all at least scratch, if not a little better, maybe a little worse. But these guys they're damn good players, and to be able to play with those guys, 2 times a week, 3 times a week. I'm not saying, my guys could go out there and compete at the U.S. Mid-Am level, but I wouldn't bet against them. They can play. So that helps me throughout the year I'm playing against these guys and I'm pushing them, they're pushing me. So it's just fun. And I learn all those things from those guys because we like to, talk a little trash back and forth and keep it somewhat fun. Definitely don't need a camera following us, but we have some fun out there.
I've got another podcast, and I said, we were talking about the mid-am. I said something along the lines of, like, you'd be surprised at how many good golfers there are in the Bloomington area. And it's like, anybody that played Illinois amateur golf, Bloomington is kind of like a hotbed for golf.
Sure.
It's I imagine, there are a lot of games at the various clubs, but it's to me the best thing to get your game in a better place is playing with good players regularly. It's like, I think back to when I was a member at a club, we had, I don't know, probably about 25 guys that were 2 handicaps or 3 handicaps or less. And we had, like, basically a bi-weekly scratch game. and
Sure.
everybody would bring some cash, and we would play all straight up, and there was like, low gross and skins.
Mm-hmm.
And
Definitely.
it was like, I think like from my perspective, like everybody there took their game to a different level because of just the constant competition level. And I think that's like something that is hard with golf. It's hard to find groups like that.
Right. And on top of that, a lot of the guys I play with, we all work for ourselves. We have our own businesses, or, in my case, I'm in real estate. So I can kind of, change my schedule as needed to, hey, we got afternoon tea time. Let's make it happen. Okay, let's go. So yeah, that definitely helps.
This was your first USGA event. How many tries had you had at various events? And I saw you shot 63 to get through the qualifier.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about getting there.
Yeah. So to clear all the stories, I've been reading social media, and there's a lot of stories out there, and I'm like, where did they even find all this stuff? Because about 90% of it isn't true, right? But just a quick rundown. I played full time from about 2010 to 2014, 15 maybe. And then I kept my pro cards, and I didn't play in any big events. Like I was a mini tour event.
I saw Illinois Opens.
Illinois Open is literally the only tournament I played in, from 15 to like 20, and had some success there. That's why I kept it. But then after that, having kids, just didn't practice enough, didn't play enough, and keeping my pro card made no sense. I play in one event a year. I get jacked up for that one event, and I just have to play good that week. And if I don't, I lose what I was trying to do all year, So my buddies finally convinced me to get my amateur status back. I applied in 23, the end of 23 maybe, and got it back last year. And they backdated all. And I mean, I did exactly what they were supposed, what the USGA wanted me to do, and we were good to go. And then this was my first like legit USGA. Well, besides the 4-ball, I played in the 4-ball, but we didn't do very good. So moving on. But then the U.S. Mid-Am qualifier was at Troon Country Club, where I'm a member, and I'm like, this is just set up perfect, So I go out there, play pretty well, shoot 63, get out, and then, I wouldn't say that I didn't think I could do this. I mean, if I didn't think I could do it, I wouldn't play it, But it was fun. It was a good week. I was glad to play well while I was out there. Because I mean, it's amateur golf, right? We're not playing every day. We're not practicing every day, and you just got to play. You got to play good at at the right opportunity and the right time, and that's what happened. And here we are today, right?
It's I played in 2016, and I was kind of cruising in the stroke play, and then I started thinking about match play on my back nine of the second round, and that's when anybody that plays any level of golf knows that's when implosions happen, and sure enough, it happened. But like that's the thing about that mid-am is if you play well in that stroke play portion, and you get into match play, everybody in that match play feels like they have a chance because it becomes I got to beat one guy for 6 days or 6 rounds in a row,
sure,
which is not a crazy proposition. In terms of the stroke play and getting kind of ready in there, what did your strategy shift at all from stroke play to match play?
Yes. So for stroke play, I mean, the whole goal is kind of stay out of your own way, stay away from the big numbers, which I didn't, unfortunately, but I was able to kind of recoup and find some birdies out there. But again, Troon Country Club, I felt like set perfectly up for me. And I hit in the stroke play, I hit driver at Troon Country Club the whole round too. Troon North was kind of more of a blessing in disguise because it totally took the driver out of my bag. So it kept me safe. But I think the first 2 rounds, I think Troon Country Club, I played first. I think I hit 17 greens. I had a 4-putt. I putted it off the green on number 3. So I started off number 3, my third hole of the whole week, have a 4-putt for 7. So that was a real fun, start. And then Troon North, I hit it in the desert on number 10 and hit a provisional. Didn't even look for it just because I knew it was just what we weren't going to find it. Then ended up taking a 7 there. But I just kept battling. Stay out of your own way. Once I had the big numbers, I'm like, okay, well, you gotta buck up and make some stuff happen. But once I finished the first round at even par, I'm like, you know what? Just get it in the house, keep it around par, and let's get on to match play. And that's exactly what I did. So I was happy. And then when I get to match play, let's go grab as many birdies as you can.
Was there a particular match or moment where it felt like something was going the wrong way, and there was a moment that really flipped a match on its head? Yeah,
I think it was a quarter. That would have been my second match, maybe, the Justin Huber, who I didn't personally know him, but I've seen his name around, and I knew he was a good player. Obviously, looked up everyone I played against, and knew I had to bring my stuff. In that particular match, I just was not hitting the ball good, battling the swing a little bit, and honestly, mentally, I was tired. I was beat, But then I think I was like 3 down through 13, and just had that long get your butt up and start doing something talk, and just caught fire. And I think from like 14 to 14, I think I birdied 14 through 18. Then I birdied the 19th hole to beat him. And then I birdied the first 4 holes of the next match. So I had like 7, 8, or 9 birdies in a row. And just from there, that little bit of confidence, I told my dad, I'm like, Dad, we're going. We're going to make a run at this. Just because you always got to get past that match where you just don't play the best that you can. And for me, I think that was that match. That was a turning point for us.
You had your dad on the bag. I'm sure your dad has had a lot of sports experiences with you through your life. What was that experience like, being able to get the whole thing done with your dad on the bag?
It was fun. We've played a lot of golf together. He knows my game just as good as anybody else. And he's a comforting presence, right? And he's just a big bear, right? He's got his long hair, big, solid, strong dude. And it's more of some reassurance, some confirmation. He's not out there telling me what to do, where to hit it, how to hit it. He's just there for the conversation, and the reassurance is all. And when it was all said and done, it was that my wife said the best, because honestly, I don't remember the last tee ball. I don't remember hitting it, and I don't remember making that last putt. I think I just blacked out in the moment, right? But she said when I made the putt and I went and hugged my dad, because my dad's he's a big fella too, and she's like, man, I would not want to be in the middle of that hug. I bet that thing was tight. But that was just, I think we finally. Because for the longest time, I tried the professional route. He was supporting me through that. And then we just figured out that just wasn't the way to go. So I stopped. And then I started talking about playing, back some competitive, amateur stuff. And he's like, yeah, go for it. And then we all just finally were able to just let it go once we got the job done out there. So super fun to have him on the bag. I can't wait. And then honestly, in some of the reports, I said that he won the Masters badges in 2010, and I don't even know what I was saying on half of those deals, but he actually won the badges in 2004. So we have been going out to the Masters. He gets 2 badges per day for the week, or for the tournament rounds, and he gets them for his life. So we've been going out there for 20 years. He usually takes a day. I take a day. My brother takes a day. And then his sister, my dad's sister, my aunt and uncle, they take a day. And we kind of rotate it, every year. But we understand how special it is out there and how different it is out there. And some of the conversation is, we had on our way home, we're like, Dad, all those ropes that we can't go behind and all those buildings that we keep asking ourselves, oh, I wonder what's in there. I wonder what's back there. We're going to be able to find out what all that is now. So it makes it even more special just because of, the experience we've already had out there. So we're excited.
I think it's tradition that the Mid-Am gets the invitation to the Masters. It's also you get into the US Open next year, which is at Shinnecock Hills. That's a pretty great golf course. I would just finished a week where I was out there last week. It's among what I would consider the very best golf courses in the world.
Sure. The Hamptons in the middle of summer, it's going to be real cheap to be out there, right?
My one piece of advice, having covered a U.S. Open there, is if you can stay east of the golf course. You don't want to be in the west or the west to east traffic. Because if you get on the other side, then you're going. It's even if you're 30 minutes, it's going to be 30 minutes. If you're going the other way, you could be 10 minutes away and take an hour.
Sure.
But with the Masters, that's incredible that you've been going for effectively 21 years of your life. Mm-hmm. I would say where's your favorite spot to sit as a patron? And you talked about like wondering what's behind the ropes. Assuming you get the chance to play, what shot are you most excited to hit?
I'd like to say number one, but that's going to be. I'm going to have to tell the patrons to move that.
I think if you blacked out on 18 at the Mid-Am, you probably could be blacked out on one.
Yeah, right. Just tell them move that left rope a little further left because I'm like a pole cut kind of guy, and that sucker might be coming low left real quick at you.
Just praying for a little heel modern technology ball.
100%. No, so personally, my favorite spot to sit, I really like sitting at number 2 on a day where they can go for the green, just because
behind the green.
Yeah, behind the green. I want to sit.
It's the best spot.
Oh, so you can watch the ball come in. It is fantastic. And then I've always had a lot of fun on number 6 tee. It's a kind of a downhill par 3, and the wind's always circling, and no one's ever up there. So you go up there, and I swear to you, you have the most caddy player interaction up there on 6 tee that you'll find anywhere, because one, nobody's up there, and you are literally like right next to these guys, So those 2 spots are golden. Number 9, I like watching because, again, no one's ever at the 9 tee, and they all hit driver. So you get to see, really it take off, how, what it looks like, how far they hit it, and all. So those 3 spots are definitely where I'm going to go watch. But I do not want to hit that second tee. I do not like hitting the ball right to left. That ain't for me. So they need to clear.
I feel like you could get a 3-wood out there, though. You could probably turn it over a little.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing. You could hit that 3-wood and just get it to the bunker, and then you got flat lie, and you just got plenty of horsepower.
Yeah, just that easy, right? Just that easy.
It is. I think the thing. I got to play it in a media day, or not a media day, the media lottery.
Okay.
And to me, the thing about that golf course is it kind of like, it's the golf course that's best at preying on your insecurities as a player, right? Where you have all these memories and nostalgia, and you remember what other people have done out there, but then the margin for error is so small and the shots are so challenging that it's it's a weird thing with golf. It's where you have to be the key. The game is so complex, but the key to the game is having nothing rolling around your head when you're making the move.
Right.
And it's with those tournaments. Are there? I saw that you said something along the lines of I just want to play with some guys that are open to having a little game on the side and practice rounds. Is there anybody that you've got, particularly you would love to play with?
Again, the list goes, there's a long list of guys I'd like to play with, but the one I think Tony Finau would be great, just because I have played with him before, and some of the early on mini tour things. So it'd be good to kind of catch up on with him. I'm sure he remembers me, right? They all remember me, right? So I'm hoping he maybe gets a little spin of this and hears the story, and maybe he does remember me. I'll never forget, we were in Chicago. We played at I just told you I'm never going to forget, but we played at, they just had to play. Oh, shoot. I can't remember. Darn it. That's going to make me mad now. But my wife sat down and had dinner with Tony and his family. Gipper, his brother Gipper was out there playing.
Big break star.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Big time. So I don't know if that would be kind of cool, but obviously I would be happy to play with anybody out there. I just want to have a little fun. I obviously play golf, right? I'm not too bad at it some days. But I'm not I don't know really a whole lot about the technicality of the golf swing. I get up there and I hit it and go find it. The ball doesn't move, hit it, go find it. That was the other thing. A lot of guys were like, man, he takes a rip at it and then he starts walking. I'm like, well, the more I think, the worse it's going to get. So and that's another story. I don't remember. It was like our 23rd hole or something. And it's a par 5 and I hit a bad tee shot, so we laid up, and I'm sitting there. We got a little 50-yard pitch right up the hill, and my dad and I were talking, and we're pointing out these spots on the green. And my dad starts talking about this light piece of grass, this dark piece of grass, and I'm all in with him. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna hit it right there, and I just cold shanked it. I just shanked the shit out of it, And I'm I get up there, I mark my ball. I'm like, Dad, what are we doing? This isn't how we play golf. Let's just stop talking, right? We're not talking about this anymore. So yeah, I mean, the less you think about it, the easier it's going to be, in my opinion. But as far as golfers, yeah, Tony would be cool just because I've met him personally before. My wife follows his wife on Instagram, and she's in love with her. Or whatever that social media stuff is, TikTok, Instagram, all that. I'm not the best with it, but he'd be fun. And then really just anybody and everybody out there. Obviously, your dream to be playing with Tiger and Rory and all those guys. But I'm also a realistic guy. That ain't happening. Maybe if it does, it'd be great. But
it was a couple years ago at the Open at the Old Course. Adrian Marunk had just I think he was one of the first people. He was teeing off 10, which is way the hell out there. Sure. And at the time this was before he became, a big time winner on the DP World Tour. And then he went to live, but he's a relatively unknown golfer. And he's got I think it was 6:30 on the Old Course. He was teeing off for 7. And who shows up? Just shows up at his tee time. Never met the guy, Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
He plays practice round with Tiger Woods. So you never know, right? That's kind of the beauty of those practice rounds.
Exactly. And that's the unknowing is kind of, even more of the excitement, right? I did see that Evan Beck won last year, the Mid-Am, and he played with Bubba Watson at the Masters last year. So I was like, well, I think I'd be all right with that. That'd be kind of fun.
I think that's one of the coolest parts about the Masters is the field is so small. And it's so elite, and you're either playing, and you're either playing you're going to play with some legend of the game from it's if you played with Jose Maria Olazabal, it'd be probably holy shit, I'm playing with this guy I watched win Masters and is got one of the best short games ever, right? That would be cool in itself, and then you're playing with somebody else. A hot topic of the week is the 7 of the 8 quarterfinalists were reinstated professionals. You yourself are a reinstated professional. Obviously, as you kind of laid out, you played full time from 2010 to 2014, and then you were playing about 1, 2, 3 events a year for the next almost decade.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on the reinstated AM versus just amateur, staying amateur debate when it comes to the Mid-Am?
I mean, honestly, what's the difference? If you follow the rules and you are what you are, I mean, every one of those guys out there have full-time jobs, have kids. Sure that some of them had pretty good success on it, but what are you going to knock a guy because he went and tried something and now he just can't play as much as he'd like, but he'd still like to be competitive? I mean, to me, if you really wanted to shut down the argument, then you change the rules. But the rules are what the rules are, and if you're following them, I mean, why does it matter? And for me to clear the air, I was never on anybody's staff. Nobody ever gave me a golf club. I think eBay, I'm probably one of eBay's best customers because I buy and sell golf clubs. If I want to try it, I buy it. And if I don't like it, I put it back on there to try to sell it, so really let's break down what a professional golfer is on the mini tour, right? Or let's break down what's the true definition of an amateur anymore with this NIL stuff, with all that stuff. And I don't want to get into that conversation because you could go for days, right? But I don't have a problem with it. If you follow the rules, you follow the rules, and it should be a shut door, right? I think a lot of these people, one, obviously reading some of the articles that are being written about me, don't know what the hell they're talking about because, I've played on the Korn Ferry 150 times. I have $500,000. Well, that's all false. None of that is true. I've never played on a Korn Ferry event. I've tried, never made it. I'm from Indiana. I played basketball at Drake. None of this stuff is true. So let's get the facts right before, people start spurting out what's going on. But as far as follow rules, and there, again, it should be a shut door.
I think it's a super complex situation.
Correct.
Like many hotly debated topics are. I think it's like anybody that has a problem with anybody in the field, you shouldn't have a problem with anybody personally that followed the rules, as you said. Now, like where you could have issue is where what the rules are. And I think that's where the discussion should be had. In your case, to me, like turning pro shouldn't be a death sentence on your amateur career. The idea of trying something should not be like you're done.
Right.
I think that where I would come down as someone who like never played professionally, worked from age 23 and played golf sparingly and tried to compete, right? Over the course of my life, where I would say like in a completely different situation is like the way I feel about it is it should be tiered based off of where you get to, right?
Sure.
And if you've played 10 years or 5 years on the Korn Ferry Tour, or you've made it to the PGA Tour, in that sense, like there has to be a different reinstated station process for that person than somebody that played 5 years of mini tour golf and then has just basically kept your situation where you had your professional status but didn't really play, like it was working a full-time job. Like to me, there's different barriers, but like the spirit of the event is that these are people that work for a living and do something other than golf for a living. Now there's like all sorts of caveats in here. Like people are quick to point like, well, there's a lot of guys that don't have to work that are in this event. And that's true, right? Like, but like for the rule's sake, like to me, there has to be just like a process, like in a set number. It's like, okay, like if you play on a accredited PGA Tour, whether it's, Canada, Korn Ferry or the PGA Tour, there has to be just like lengths of period of time. Because like to me, if you played Korn Ferry Tour golf 3 years ago and you had played for 3 years, 4 years on the Korn Ferry Tour, if you take 10 years off, you are not anywhere near. I'm nowhere near you because you've devoted your life to that craft. Sure. And I'm never going to have experiences of playing 20 events a year with a 4 round, like 80 tournament rounds a year. Like that, there's no way for a working person to simulate that. There's not even enough mid-am events to do that,
Sure.
So I don't know. It's complex. I think that there has to be just a little bit more. Like to me, it seems like it's become kind of the Wild West, where it's just like, oh, you want to get reinstated? Here you go. And there has to be some sort of a sliding scale based off of where you got in the game of golf.
Sure. And yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I mean, I'm not going to speak for those guys who've been on the Corn Ferry because I haven't been on there. So for speaking for myself, honestly, basically all I did was to become a pro. I just paid the higher entry fee and I went and played for a check, right?
Yeah.
Which I thought was fun, but I mean, when it's all said and done and you're spending, $30, $40, $50,000 a year and you're only getting back about 20, then you turn around and look at it and like, yeah, you paid for the little bit of that chase of that dream, So yeah, I mean, you said it perfect. It can get complex. But yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with it if you follow the rules. And the USGA has come out with, hey, these are our rules and we're fine with it. And, if it needs to change, they'll change it. But I mean, it's the US Mid-Am. I mean, it's all these guys over 25. If you're still playing at a high competitive level at, my age, I was the oldest player in the finalists. Or actually, I was the oldest player in the match play.
Yeah.
I'm 38 years old. Going to be 39 here in a couple of days. But what besides like the city events, what other competitive tournament do you have?
Well, I think that's the thing. I've like gone like a lot of different. I've thought about this a lot, and it's like if we're talking about like a basketball league, like
sure.
If somebody played like in Europe for 10 years and they're 35 and they're playing on somebody's team, nobody's running and being like, this isn't fair. This guy played in Europe.
Correct.
And like, I see that side of it where it's like, hey, like one of the great things in golf is like always play better. I think where golf's like unique is like the way they prop up amateurism,
right.
And this mystique of amateurism in golf, which by the day with NIL and everything, as you alluded to, is kind of eroding. And I think like it's this weird, there's a weird kind of element to golf with this like amateurism and the properness of the amateur game, but like modern society is eroding away at that. And that's one of the tricky things. It's made this whole topic way more complex.
Sure.
Sure. And so I think like where I've like been frustrated on both sides of it, I'm frustrated with, I think the USGA hasn't done a good job of like laying out and being clear of like, this is how we reinstate people. And this is like what each like,
sure.
Each level. But then the other side of it is like people being like personally mad at somebody because they're playing well. It's like, wait a second, like,
sure,
they're just following the rules and they're getting to play in this tournament. It's like where the blame should go if you're upset about them playing in the tournament is the USGA, not at all directed at the individual. They're just trying to like. There's nothing better than playing competitive golf, especially if you grew up playing athletics. Like, what other sports can you play at like at a high competitive level into your 60s and 70s, right? Like you see like Dave Ryan from Springfield, like won the US or the senior am. And like, I saw he just won the state senior am again. Like, it's like, that's so cool of like, being able to play and compete at something at a high level. And it's something that no other sport offers.
Right. 100%.
Yeah. I got to ask you, LeBron or MJ?
MJ all day. Not even close. I mean, that was my era too. Like, it's not, And I don't even want to get in a debate about that because I could go all day. That's a whole other show, my man.
I just, I got one of my colleagues is a big, he's a Clevelander. He's the same age as us, basically. He's a big LeBron guy. So I just like, stoke the flame a little there. LeBron, big golf guy now. Maybe you'll get to play with him.
I see that. I'd love to play with him. Hey, shout out to him. I'd love to have a round with him too.
It's amazing how into it he is.
Oh yeah.
It's been cool seeing all these guys catch the golf bug. Brandon, congrats on the Mid-Am. Look forward to meeting you in person at the Masters of the U.S. Open, if not before then. But
Sure.
thanks for coming on, and congratulations on incredible achievement.
I appreciate it, Andy. Thanks for having me, and feel free to reach out anytime, buddy.
All right, big thanks to PJ Clark for editing, producing this show, all the hard work the last couple of weeks with the Ryder Cup. And thank you to everybody also that ordered our book. That was really great. And, the coffee table book, we're really excited about. So if you're looking for fall gear and other things, head over to proshop.thefriedegg.com. Meg's done an awesome job stocking that. I know I can feel in there starting to get to be that time of year where you need some layers. All right. Thanks. We'll be back with a new episode next week.